you're not careful, being a wrestling fan is kind of expensive. Cost can be an inhibiting factor when getting into new areas of wrestling. Paying a tenner a month for something you're not sure you're going to like in the first place, especially in the last 2 years when money has been understandably tight for a lot of people, can be a very hard sell. And that's why we should thank people like @JackSharesGraps on Twitter, who a few months ago went out of his way to catalogue some of the best matches of the year that you can watch for free. Not doing it for any other reason but his earnest desire to share wrestling, and I love that. He's since then done a few threads, one of which is all the matches you can watch from the video I did with Ethan and Cherry a few months back, so that was cool, thanks Jack. But this thread has shown me some matches that I wound up loving and amplified some that I already loved from earlier in the year. Today I'm going to take a look at 10 matches from this thread. I'll also leave a link to this thread down below where you can further explore Jack's recommendations. I trust his taste enough to vouch for his recommendations here. Much like my Hidden Gems video, I won't be using matches from the 3 biggest promotions in WWE, AEW and New Japan. All of them have matches that I would absolutely recommend on this thread, but I want this video to hopefully be a springboard for discovery. A backdoor free trial, if you will, to the vast amount of wrestling in the world today. Because trust me, if you're dissatisfied with the wrestling you currently watch, the art form has you covered. Whatever you want from wrestling is out there, you just kind of need to find it. This could be considered an unofficial sequel to my Hidden Gems video in that regard, although it'd be a stretch to describe some of these as such. But I do want to address a problem I have with my last Hidden Gems video, which is it was completely dominated by a couple of promotions. So here I've kept it to 1 entry per promotion. I'm also not going to include anything from DDT, Stardom or Ring of Honor, as they took up a lot of my first list, although DDT, Stardom and Ring of Honor adjacent is still allowed. You'll see what that means. I also won't be including any matches I have already covered or plan to cover in future to prevent myself from needless repetition. All the matches on this list are free to watch on YouTube. There's a playlist below. Also, for my own sake, I won't be watching any of the several 1-hour Iron Man matches on this list because, look, I refuse. I fucking refuse. I know TJP versus Joe Alexander is meant to be great, but 60 minutes is a long time for a promotion I'm not invested in. Stop asking me if I've seen it. Oh, hey, look, it's the best match to happen on January 4th. I'm sure that joke will get less funny as Wrestle Kingdoms continue to get worse, but oh well. It's a true statement at the very least. This match is contested between Maki Ito and Miyu Yamashita, and Maki Ito is the obvious underdog. I mean, obviously, it's Maki Ito. But despite that, surprisingly, a lot of this match sees Maki Ito on top. After taking some initial punishment from Yamashita, she caught an opening by hitting a backbreaker. From here, she obviously spent a fair bit of time on Yamashita's back. Ito did a good job of putting over how desperate she was to capitalize on this during this section. She was also very smooth at points, countering Yamashita's momentum into a half crab. Ito's time on top did drag a little bit for me, not enough to ruin the match or anything, but enough to be noticeable. Yamashita took control again after a brief headbutt exchange, and she caught Ito with a German and started the kicks, which, you know, is kind of Yamashita's biggest asset. Ito held on through the kicks, showing great tenacity as she refused to fall to the onslaught. There's a great moment in here where Yamashita misdirects Ito to hit a springboard and Saguri. It's just fucking lovely. The ending here is killer. Ito sticks up her middle finger to call back to the start of the match, but then is resoundingly put down with a spinning back kick, giving Yamashita the KO, with Maki Ito screaming, mad at herself. She came so close to beating Yamashita, but she couldn't quite put the pieces together. I love that narrative. To the point where the pacing issue I mentioned earlier doesn't really bother me anymore. This match really works if you buy into Ito's performance, and she's so sympathetic here that it's hard not to. Yamashita obviously plays her role well too. It's a cliche in Joshi circles to call someone a final boss, but she truly feels like Maki Ito's end goal here. Even though Ito spent a fair bit of time on top, it didn't take much for Yamashita to get back there, which makes absolute sense given the narrative at play here. Even if you're new to TJPW like I was when I watched this match, you understand the narrative right away. Honestly, I think that's a strength of the promotion, and this is a great place to start. It's free, you'd be silly to pass it up. I had to include at least one Jonathan Gresham match in this video, didn't I? That talented son of a bitch is one of the best wrestlers in the world and never seems to have the same match twice. And he's great here, obviously, going after both Reed's leg and arm. He finds some very creative ways to do this, including countering a Pele attempt into a dragon screw, which is cool and all, but I don't understand how that happened. Aaron Reed is a wrestler I'm only seeing for the first time here. He really impressed me though. He has a really impressive array of moves in his arsenal. My favourite was this beautiful slingshot suplex, and then there was also a cutter to the outside near the end of his match. He's more than just flashy explosive moves here, although his moves are very flashy and very explosive. He sold the leg targeting from Gresham really well, and the structure of the match meant that the leg played a part in the finish. Reed got a lot in. Gresham was very giving here. It was coded that after an air raid crash, he'd have gotten the win if Gresham's leg wasn't so close to the ropes. It kind of puts over the story of the match of the young, flashy guy overwhelming the veteran, but Gresham was able to endure and out-wrestle Reed, who was clearly outclassed on the mat. But again, when he had room to hit his shit, he was shown to be a worthy opponent for Gresham. In a fairly short match, Gresham helped to elevate Reed, and that's nothing to sniff at. This was Aussie Open's first match back since 2019, Mark Davis missing all of 2020 due to injuries. They're facing the Generation Now team of Matty Wahlberg and Ricky South, who taunts Aussie Open at the start, shouting things like "you left" before the bell, and Wahlberg even used Fletcher's arrow taunt in an early exchange to get in Kyle's head. Everyone is put over well here right from the start. There's a really flashy start between Fletcher and Wahlberg that's fast paced with both men doing their best to keep up with each other. It's great. And then big men get in and they start doing big men exchange, running into each other, like mostly running into each other, to be honest. Both teams had time where they were in control of the match, cutting off the ring. Aussie Open's time and control led to a phenomenal hot tag to South. He managed to take on Aussie Open on his own while Wahlberg was on the outside. Also, his exchanges going toe to toe with Davis down the stretch made for some very fun hossy shit. One of this match's greatest strengths is the fact that it's under lucha rules. This really helps the match to flow freely since you don't need to worry about who's legal, allowing it to get chaotic the further into the match we got. There's this great moment where Davis is stuck in a triangle from Wahlberg, but he manages to get him up, allowing Fletcher to launder South into him to break it up. Like, what the fuck was that? Overall, this is a great return from Aussie Open, who don't really appear to have lost a step since their Brit Res days. This is a fun, chaotic match that I'm happy I checked out. Okay, so I adore the first few seconds of this match. They're probably the best first few seconds of any match all year. Okay, so context. Vegeta has been staring a lot in the last year. In his match with Goji Izaki for the GHC title, they stared at each other for 30 minutes and I'm still not over it. Why did they do that? Why was it good? I only have so many years on this earth and I'm wasting them. I've watched that match 4 times. I'm wasting my life. He then went on to stare at Kano for 7-ish minutes on his way to winning the title. So at this point, it's established. Vegeta stares at people at the start of title matches. That's just what he does. That's his thing now, and we need to respect it. Here, he tried to stare at Segura, but Segura was like, "What the fuck? No," and rushes him with a big boot. I adore that. I fucking adore that. I love that Vegeta has managed to have 3 matches where one of the major talking points was a stare off, and he's managed to make it subversive every time. He's a treasure. I love him. So yeah, the first few seconds aside, this match is really good, but I have next to nothing to say about it. I mean, look at these two. The match you think they wrestled is the match they wrestled. There's big strikes, heavy bombs, It's all really good shit, but there's not really a story to dissect here. They're in the same stable, Sugiyama, alongside a host of other hard bastards, so this kind of just is a respectful title fight. Well, as respectful as caving in your opponent's head can possibly be. I love when Vegeta is throwing the ref away though. It's funny. He's such a card. But like, it's a big host bombshell. If that sounds like your thing, just go watch it. Not every recommendation needs to be this big deal. Okay, I just think you might like it. You should go watch it. It's free. The playlist is down in the description. Just go watch it. Moriarty is so charming. I love him. Need I say more? I don't think I should have to say more. I mean, look at this. Look at this silly boy. He's adorable. I love him. How can you not love him? Lee uses comedy here early on, and I'd kind of like to take a second to gush about how effective that is. On the surface, it does its job of being funny. Moriarty's so goofy and charismatic that he pulls it off, and it never dips into the realms of being absurd. Like, it never breaks the immersion. But also, it does a fantastic job of instantly endearing you to him. But also, it means when Travis Huckabee starts brutalizing him down the stretch, you can't help but root for Moriarty. It's a fairly common trope used in movies to use comedy as a fast way to make you fall in love with characters. It means during more emotional and heavy moments, you feel for these characters a lot. Because someone making you laugh is just a quick way to your heart. It's something Trainspotting used to great effect, and it's something the MCU tries to do to mixed results. Like, it works great in Guardians of the Galaxy. It doesn't work so well in Captain Marvel. I've gotten off track here. That trope works really well here. An easy trap to fall into to make a match structure like this feel weird in the sense of suddenly taking a hard turn from comedy to serious wrestling. The transition happens so seamlessly here that you hardly even notice it. When you get to that side of a match, it's an incredible battle of arm targeting, a game of chess that never once lost my interest. Huckabee's such a bastard, relentlessly going after Lee's arm, almost as if to punish him for the joking from earlier. Absolutely everything about him stands in stark contrast to Moriarty, and it makes for a great dynamic. For Moriarty's part, he manages to stay flashy in this match without ever neglecting to sell the arm, which is a skill many wrestlers more experienced than him haven't yet mastered. I think this match perfectly encapsulates why I enjoy Lee Moriarty's work. I'm a new fan of his, only really getting into him over Mania weekend this year, but I'd go out your way to watch this match. The Cyberfight Festival felt like such a big deal back in June, which, to be fair, large supercards tend to do. Put on by the three Cyberfight-owned promotions of Noah, DDT, and Tokyo Joshi Pro. It's one of the shows of the year, wonky main event aside. Wonky is a bad way to describe it. It was bad. It was just bad. Why did they make Keiji Muto main event here? Why against Marufuji? He's not going to carry Muto. I've gotten off track again. This show is one of the first times it's felt like Bushiroad has had serious competition in a while, and that's inherently exciting. Everyone felt like a bigger deal coming out of this card. Apart from Keiji Muto. Just retire, man. This match here has an easily understandable story going in. The future of DDT and the future of pro wrestling Noah are colliding. Have young ace of Noah, Kaito Kiyomiya, and rising star Yoshiki Nomura taking on the young DDT ace of Konosuke Takeshita and the rising star Yuki Ueno, who at this point is DDT Universal Champion. He's also my son. I would not be fielding questions at this time. This battle lines are drawn, promotion versus promotion kind of deal is a setting I love. A lot of my favourite wrestling of the last few years has featured this dynamic. Whether you feel it or not, you do gravitate towards one team or another, which makes it just more fun to watch. Investment makes wrestling better, who knew? I like the little mini matchups here. Nomura, for example, overpowers Ueno for a good chunk of this match, Ueno having to find a way to outmaneuver the big man to tag in Takeshita, who goes power for power, making it into a war of attrition. And then when Kaito is in there with Soup, they're exchanging big ace moves. It's a simple appeal that mostly stems from never seeing these men in a ring together. It's a one-night special attraction that can only really happen on a big supercard like this. I'm overtly biased, but I preferred the work from the DDT guys here. I think they move better as a team, hitting some really nice double team moves. I'm also glad Ueno got the pin with the BME. It does add to the weird year Kiyomiya's been having since his loss to Muto. I don't have time to go into it, but it's been such a weird year for him. But this match helped with that weird year. Also, Ueno's my son. I'm proud of him. I didn't write a way out of this segment. I write myself into corners. GLEAT are a fairly new promotion on the Pure scene, and it's so weird that they exist. Spent several months of this year pretending they don't exist. It was a good bit. I miss that life. And then they started doing UWF rules, and I'm weak. Under these UWF rules, this match can be ended in 3 ways: knockout, tap out, or a competitor running out of points. Points are deducted when you get knocked down or use the ropes to break a submission. Get 5 of them, and in the case of a draw, the rope breaks will be taken into account in deciding a winner. This rule set really makes for a different kind of match. When your win condition isn't what you're used to, you have to change your strategy accordingly. This match starts with grappling, and it's good. If you'll indulge me, I want to rant about grappling for a second. I'm not a massive MMA guy, I'm really only now properly dipping my toe into the water with it. So please understand what I'm saying in this section is just in a pro wrestling context and has no real basis in actual grappling. And let me start with saying a lot of grappling in wrestling is fucking lame, can often be very stagnant and not really contribute anything to the overall match. For example, in New Japan, grappling is often used to get wrestlers through the first part of a main event match on their forever quest to make matches so long that it physically kills their wrestlers. Some wrestlers use this time well and set up narratives that will pay off as the match goes on. Other wrestlers just spend time flailing for the nearest limb. And when it's like that, the grappling feels like it's just wasting my time. Doubly so if they're not compelling on the ground to begin with. But here, I found the grappling really compelling. The 2 men are constantly moving to try and improve their position. They're good on the mat to the point where most of the first half of this match being on the ground never really feels like it drags. It helps that under this rule set, the grappling has a purpose. Like, there's an actual end goal. If one of the men can get themselves into a position to lock something big in, their opponent would have no choice but to concede a rope break or tap out and lose the match. The fact that it takes so long for a rope break to be used here puts over the price of conceding one very well. When Azuka finally conceded that first rope break, it felt like a massive concession on his part. Clearly agreed that it was, as he immediately fought through a Nomura barrage to lock in a choke and force Nomura to use a rope break. This tit-for-tat would continue. A rope break force would immediately be avenged until Nomura knocks Azuka down with one of his strikes, forcing a point to be lost. And then when Azuka tried to return in kind, Nomura gets him caught in a submission, forcing him to concede another point. Desperation from Azuka to tie the match up in the dying minutes is great. You can feel the urgency from him through your screen. The durability from Nomura was so fucking good, his refusal to give up the other hand making him look strong as fuck. The drama here was completely taken from the change in rule set. I love when the rules of a match gives you something that you wouldn't normally see under traditional rules, and this match delivers here. 15 minutes just fly by, there's never a dull moment, and it's free. It's free. I've said that a lot, but all these matches are free. When I asked Jack if I could use his thread as a point of reference for this video, I also asked him if there was anything on there that he would specifically recommend. And he gave me this match, so I felt obliged to put it on. I will say right now that the YouTube version is not ideal. It appears to have been uploaded by Tango himself, and not to be rude, but this isn't a good rip. I'm assuming he has permission to upload it and everything, but it's recorded with Bandicam Studio, which means there's a watermark at the top of the screen throughout the whole match. Also, because of this, the audio and video quality suffers compared to the Internet Wrestling TV release. If this version is the only version you have access to, then it's not that big a deal, but the IWTV release is just the better version, so if you have that, go watch it on there. You should use OBS next time, mate. I'm not sure it will fix the video and audio problems, but at least it will take away the watermark. Also worth noting is the quality isn't even the best on IWTV. Some of the camera shots are kind of blurry, and there's some nasty static noises and clipping. Don't go into indie shows expecting high production values. In fact, I think it's unreasonable to expect that. Again, not a big deal, but it did distract me at points, so I think it's worth you knowing that before you go in. This doesn't take away from the quality of the match, by the way. You should still absolutely seek this out. Both men do a really good job here. I've never seen Tango before this match, but I really liked him wearing the Liverpool top to contrast Makabe's Chelsea one. Really kept up with Makabe here, which is impressive given Makabe's ability. He's very sympathetic. You feel for him when he has to concede defeat in a grappling exchange, or when Makabe starts slapping him around, almost bullying him. Later on in the match, when he was firing back, I was behind him despite only seeing him here. Makabe was great, as you'd expect. He out-wrestled Tango at nearly every turn. What really put this over was the fact he never reached for the ropes, even when it was the easier option. He'd always grapple his way out of a situation to get himself back on top. When he did use a rope break near the end of the match, it felt like a big moment. My favourite of his counters is when Makabe countered an STF into a fucking tombstone. Honestly, that should have been the finish. Like, seriously? What the fuck? Things escalated really nicely here. By the end, every big move felt like a conceivable match ender. Despite being on the back foot for most of this match, Tango started to feel like he had a chance when he was deploying his impressive arsenal of bombs. His fighting spirit in this match was great. He used the kick out at one trick at the exact right moment to make you feel like it was this big comeback moment for him. It wasn't. Makabe punished him and won. As someone who had never seen him before, this match really got Tango over with me. He held his own against one of the most highly regarded indie talents in the world right now, and that's nothing to be ashamed of. There's obvious talent here. I'm really glad I gave this match a go. Thanks, Jack. You beautiful man. I don't know how to compliment people. Astro Boys. Oh my god, I love them. They're adorable. But they will murder you, but they're adorable. It's like if Care Bears decided they were done with your shit. They're great. They're masters of hard-hitting tag sprints. They've had loads this year, and they're all at an incredibly high level of quality. In this match, they're really explosive. They move at 1,000,000 miles an hour without ever holding back on stiffness. Everything hits hard, and everything feels impactful. They're taking on strong BJ here. I only got into BJW recently, so I mostly know them through reputation, but like, that's an A-star name right there. It's both descriptive and makes me giggle every time I say it. I know Yuji Kobayashi though. He's great. He hits so hard, it's ridiculous. Along with Sakamoto, they have such a size and presence. They overpower astronauts for a lot of this match. What kind of surprised me was a lot of this match was a Kobayashi versus Abe, and I'm not complaining. They work really well together, especially when exchanging strikes. It's just weird because this match was basically here to set up Sakamoto's challenge to Nomura's strong title. It did kind of work in the match's favour though, because the exchanges between champion and challenger were electric. There's also this moment where Astros have strong BJ in a double octopus hold, and Yuji just throws Abe into Nomura to get him off Sakamoto. It's fucking nuts. Much like Sugiyama vs Vegeta, I don't have a really deep reason for recommending this. It's a hard-hitting, fast-paced tag match with a good structure and creative moves that introduces you to one of the best tag teams in the world. Despite it being a setup tag, it stands on its own as one of the better tag matches of the year. I managed to fit a pure rules match onto the list without going to Ring of Honor. I'll do anything to put over this rule set. Now, did this air on Ring of Honor's week by week show? Yes, shut up. Here we have one of, if not the best practitioner of the rule set in Jonathan Gresham, taking on one of the best of the UK in Chris Ridgeway. This alone sets up a kind of a local dream match vibe. Not on the level of a Joe vs Kabashi, of course, but more like an A-Kid versus Zack Sabre Jr., a Walter versus BT Gunn, a Will Ospreay versus Robbie Eagles. It's not a hype that would be strong enough to carry a match, but it's enough to add something, as intangible as that may sound. The match starts with a fairly respectful grappling exchange. What I like here is that neither man attempts a rope break, and now I think about it, that's been a theme in like 3 of these matches. 2021, the year of rope breaks. Part of this will be pride, but obviously neither man wants to be at a disadvantage for later down the stretch they go. In pure rules, how many rope breaks you have can become key as you get deeper into the match. Things will get heated up as Gresham drop kicks Ridgeway out of the ring and starts targeting the arm. During this sequence, Gresham makes an arm drag a dangerous move. In 2021, I love this man. Whenever Ridgeway would create some form of distance, he would literally be arm dragged back into place. Gresham is so good at isolating and working a limb that my interest was never lost through this whole sequence. A highlight for me here was when during a striking exchange, instead of forearming Ridgeway's head, Gresham would forearm his injured arm. So good. Ridgeway is no slouch though. As soon as there's an opening, he targets Gresham's leg, forcing Gresham to drop 2 rope breaks in fairly quick succession. There's also some great bombs thrown here, most notably some beautiful German suplexes. After forcing Gresham through all of his rope breaks, Ridgeway gets Gresham back into an ankle lock. Gresham from this position would drag both men out the ring, and it meant neither man got back in, and it resulted in a draw. I don't mind this result, to be honest. For 2 going tit for tat throughout the whole match meant the match ending like this kind of made sense. Match itself was really good. There was never really a moment where I could say I was disinterested. This match and its structure is something you can only really get under the Pure Rule set, and I adore shit like that. It's something Pure Rules offered throughout its brief resurgence, and I love it. It's why I love the rule set so much. You should go watch this. I doubt you'll be disappointed. Okay, that's the end of the video. Thanks for watching, everyone. This is going to be my last video of the year, so I'd like to take this opportunity to say thank you. At the time of recording, we are approaching 500 subscribers, and in a year, that's mad to me. In terms of this video, I'd like to thank Jack for letting me use his thread as a point of reference. Absolutely lovely dude. Go follow him on Twitter. If you want to follow me on Twitter, that's @ChryslosPuro. Please subscribe if you want to see more from me. I have some big stuff planned for the new year. So as a mini update, I did put this on Twitter. My first plan of the year is going to be my 2021 video. And beyond that, I have stuff planned that I've either been teasing for a while or has been in my head. It's content I'd want to see, so it's why I'm making it. So if any of this sounds interesting to you, again, subscribe. Is there any free matches you think people should know about? Comment them down below, I guess. But otherwise, yeah, thanks for joining me, guys. This video went on longer than I anticipated. I'll see you next time. Bye.